I call the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
E te kingi te tumuaki, tō korua tira koe ke mai nei ki te tautoko tēnei kaupapa, tēnā koutou. Tēnei anō e maumahara rātou i whakapau kaha ki te tutuki i ngā kaupapa mo te take Raupatu. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Karangatia ngā Māori tupuna, ngā Māori taniwha, ngā tumutumu o Rauwhitu e Ngerue. Tara kōkō mako, karutahi, pāne i reira, rua kauwhare, waiwaia, tūheitia e. Waikato taniwharau, he piko he taniwha. E te iwi e mātai hora ki tō tātou tupunawa, he wai whakahono i ngā iwi o te motu. Mai te kuikuinga ki te puaha, puta atu ki te moana nui ākiwa. E taku waiora, e rere e. Ko te ora o te awa, kei te kapo o te ringa. Kei te kokonga o tōku ngā kau e. E ora ana ia, e ora ana tātou. Tōku awa koe ora e. Mr Speaker, I'm pleased to contribute to this, the third and final reading of the Waikato River Settlement Bill. I acknowledge the many who have gone before us, those old people who carried the burden of Raupatu until such a time their history might be corrected, resolution reached and redress made to the peoples of Waikato. In Te Ate my father's time, there were certain old people who provided a backbone of support during the hardest of times when all they had was a deep belief and hope. I carry a picture around of them as a reminder that a small team of committed people are worth gold. The likes of Henare Tūwhāngai, Pumi Taituha, Rua Kupa, Tāwhian Karekingi, Dave Manihera, Hori Rawiri, Waia and Sue Mauri Ohoho, Nāhina Te Uira, Pita Keremeta, Fred Carr, Rewi Graham, Te Nairo Hetit, Hati Toka, Piri Raihe, Tom Taurua, Pop Herawini, James Ritchie, to name a few. Yet there are so many more, too numerous to mention, but these few played a small and steely backbone for Te Ata and both my parents, and they will never be forgotten. The settlement should be understood in conjunction with the 1995 Waikato-Raupatu Lands Claim Settlement, which went some way to reconciling the confiscation of over 1.25 million acres of Waikato lands, including the Waikato River. The settlement should be understood against the backdrop of several outstanding claims yet to be resolved, namely Maioro, Wairua and the west coast harbours of Manukau, Whaingaroa, Aotea and Kawhia. Once the remainder of those claims have been settled, then the Crown will have fulfilled a long-standing fiduciary obligation to Waikato for the unjust and illegal confiscations suffered by Waikato in the 1860s. Mr Speaker, I particularly wanted to highlight some of the more difficult aspects that will test the ongoing commitment of the Crown and respective governments to give effect to the intention of this settlement. Today is significant not only for Waikato but for the nation, and we will only be able to track the transformational effect of this settlement in 10 or 20 years hence. Co-governance and co-management are entirely new approaches insofar as resource management is concerned. But as I have said in previous speeches, the sole beneficiary of this settlement is indeed the river. We want to see it cleaned up. It may take a generation, it may take 2 generations, but it requires a long-term commitment and sustained action to realise that vision. I hope that changes to the Resource Management Act do not dilute the intent of this legislation, particularly the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency. In any event, such matters would be considered in the 5 to 10 year review, alongside the practical implementation of the vision and strategy and the overall effectiveness of the River Authority. Old and young people from Waikato-Tainui are here today because they understand the enormity of this task. There are expectations that this settlement will contribute to the tangible outcomes at a marae, community and local level that could in time see employment opportunities grow, that could see sustainable business ventures emerge, that could see young environmental scientists and planners graduate, that could see ecotourism ventures flourish, or that could see critical alliances between iwi, local government and the farming community forged. There are several opportunities contained in this settlement, but it will require people talking to people. I am saddened that the Minister for Local Government does not agree with the settlement, unlike his predecessor, and his position must not be a barrier to achieving the objectives envisaged. Local government and Tainui will need to work together because we cannot afford patch protection and lengthy resource consent processes that are contrary to achieving a healthy river. Land-based activities need to take account of their impact on the river. The farming community are key contributors to our economy in the Waikato, in fact, nationwide. Waikato-Tainui understand this, but there must be open dialogue to ensure that everyone's interests are on the table, rather than a backdoor deal approach to policy making. The river settlement will be a learn-by-doing approach, both in its co-governance protocols and its co-management practices. On the issue of water specifically, Waikato-Tainui has indeed shown a generosity of spirit when in 1994 Auckland was suffering from drought conditions affecting the city's water supply. I was an undergraduate student working for the Tainui Māori Trust Board when a hui was held at Hopu Hopu, and Sir Barry Curtis flew down by helicopter to make a request of the old people to tap into the water supply of the Waikato. There was robust debate, but the final response enabled a pipeline to extract water, as many Waikato-Tainui live in Auckland. The old people said at the time, if people are thirsty, they should be quenched. If we can help, we will. There was a belief at the time that water belonged to us all. The government's super city plans may see the privatisation of water assets. If this is the case, then Waikato-Tainui interests should be remembered and preserved. We have an ongoing concern in water care services, and a discussion should take place very quickly with ministers and iwi leaders that protect those interests. The benefit of hindsight, Mr. Speaker, is a great thing. Treaty settlements that envisage a close and integrated relationship with local government may consider inviting them to the table alongside the Crown at an earlier stage. The experience of Waikato-Tainui has shown that local body politics can be critical to achieving a successful outcome to one settlement. At this point, I want to acknowledge the Guardians Establishment Committee, co-chaired by Gordon Blake and Tuku Morgan, with Crown appointees Tracy Haupapa, Jenny Vernon, local government representatives Andra Neely, Clint Badley, Alan Livingston, Bob Simcock, industry rep Don Scarlett, iwi reps Roger Pikia, Will Marg, Dean Stebbing, Stephanie O'Sullivan, and Waikato-Tainui representatives Linda Tiaho, Taipu Paki and Rangi Mahuta. Working to develop a vision and strategy is an overarching document that will guide regional plans and rules. I've made the point in earlier debates that if dropping the vision and strategy to the regional policy statement level has a limiting effect, then it should be a subject of the review. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure those people at Te Puaha o Waikato will welcome better preservation and management of their local whitebait fisheries. The GEC was certainly a model to learn from, and I am sure the experience is one that bodes well for New Zealand to forge mutual respect for resource management approaches inclusive of Te Ao Māori. The Clean-up Fund will be a welcome addition to local communities committed to projects that make a difference alongside the river and its tributaries. I'm pleased that the scoping study is a good attempt at compiling a local picture of expectations and setting out priorities for projects that can restore the life of the river. A more realistic cost projection will also be achieved. The Sir Robert Mahuta Endowment Fund set aside for the Endowed College was a welcome contribution that will be put to good use. I'm told that the initial seeding grant for the University of New Zealand, which is now Auckland University, was from lands confiscated in the Waikato. The irony of this gesture is not lost and will remain in the tribe's collective memory in years ahead. The college will look towards getting a cadre of leading Indigenous thinkers in subject areas such as environmental studies, natural resource management and water. It makes absolute sense that our spiritual, mental and physical well-being will be nourished from this settlement. Another unique component of this settlement is the Kingitanga Accord. At the highest level, it is important to maintain a strong relationship between the current and future governments with the Kingitanga. Raupatu occurred because Waikato-Tainui believed that unity under the Kingitanga was a means of asserting absolute authority and dominion over our lands, our waterways and taonga. Our ancestors were chastised for this belief, and history has shown that they suffered as a result.